Evan Carter was the epitome of diligence at Horizon Innovations, a tech startup in Silicon Valley. At 26, he had carved out a reputation as the guy who always delivered, code debugged before deadlines, presentations polished to perfection, and a desk that looked like it belonged in a minimalist catalog. He thrived on being unnoticed, blending into the hum of keyboards and coffee machines. His ambition was quiet but fierce. He clawed his way up from a chaotic childhood with no safety net, and this job was his lifeline. Claire Donovan, the 34-year-old CEO, was impossible to ignore. Sharp, charismatic, with auburn hair that caught the light and a presence that silenced rooms. She was the kind of leader who could pivot from charming to commanding in a heartbeat. Evan kept his interactions with her strictly professional, dodging the way her green eyes seemed to linger on him during meetings. He told himself the knot in his stomach when she said his name was just the pressure to impress. The company was riding a wave of growth, but whispers of investor pressure and looming deadlines hung heavy. Evan worked harder, determined to prove his worth. He couldn't afford to slip, not when every line of code felt like a step toward the stability he'd never had. It was late, the office a ghost town of dim screens, when Claire appeared at Evan's desk. Her usual polish was frayed, hair slightly mussed, blazer discarded. "Evan, got a minute?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. He followed her to her corner office, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering valley below. She pulled a bottle of bourbon from a drawer, a move so out of character it startled him. "Rough day," she said, pouring 2 glasses. "Join me?" Every instinct screamed to decline, but her tired smile disarmed him. He took the glass. 1 drink became 3 as Claire vented about investor demands and the weight of leading a startup. Evan, loosened by the bourbon, shared his own fears, losing his edge, failing to live up to the potential. The conversation flowed, raw and unfiltered, their laughter echoing in the quiet office. For the first time, Evan saw Claire not as the untouchable CEO, but as someone wrestling with the same doubts he buried daily. They moved to the leather couch by the window, the city lights blurring into a kaleidoscope. When Claire's hand brushed his, neither pulled away. "Evan," she said, her voice low, "you're more than just good at your job. You're different." The air crackled. He knew he should leave, but the bourbon and her closeness drowned out reason. Her lips met his, tentative, then urgent. Evan's hands found her waist, the world narrowing to the heat of the moment. The city below faded, and all the rules he'd lived by dissolved in the haze of bourbon and desire. Evan woke to sunlight slicing through unfamiliar blinds, his head pounding. Silk sheets clung to his skin, and the bed was massive, dwarfing his cramped apartment's twin mattress. Panic surged as memories flickered. Claire's laugh, her hands, the kiss. He sat up, heart racing, and saw it. A stark red stain on the white sheets, undeniable evidence of his inexperience. The bathroom door opened, and Claire stepped out, wrapped in a silk robe, her hair damp. "Morning," she said, her tone gentle but unreadable. Evan's face burned. The stain screamed his secret. He'd never gone this far before, and now his boss knew it. "I need to leave," he muttered, scrambling for his clothes, scattered across the hardwood. Claire started to speak, but he couldn't face her pity, or worse, her judgment. "Evan, wait," she called, but he was already out the door, shoes in hand, fleeing her upscale condo. The elevator ride down was torture, his reflection in the mirrored walls showing a disheveled mess. He'd crossed every line he'd sworn to avoid, risking his job, his reputation, everything. The stain wasn't just on the sheets. It was on his carefully built life. Evan called in sick, a first in his 3 years at Horizon, holed up in his tiny apartment. He replayed the night in agonizing loops. Claire's texts piled up. "Can we talk? Are you okay?" But he couldn't face them. The thought of returning to the office, seeing her in meetings, knowing she knew his most humiliating secret, was unbearable. He drafted resignation emails, deleted them, then drafted more. This job was his anchor, the proof he'd risen above his past. But staying meant facing Claire, her knowing gaze, and the whispers that would surely follow if anyone found out. He couldn't pretend the night hadn't happened. not when his body still remembered her touch, her voice, her warmth. By nightfall, exhaustion won. He turned off his phone, praying sleep would bring answers. Evan arrived at the office early, hoping to slip in unnoticed. He'd practiced his neutral tone, ready to deflect any personal talk. But Claire was waiting by his desk, holding 2 coffees, her expression a mix of resolve and concern. "Evan, we need to talk," she said, handing him a cup, black, no sugar, just how he liked it. "I know you're freaking out," she continued, her voice steady. "But we're adults. We can handle this." Her composure only made him feel smaller, like his panic was childish compared to her calm. "It was a mistake," he said, staring at his monitor. "Too much bourbon. It won't happen again." The words felt hollow, his pulse betraying him as he remembered her lips. Claire's eyes searched his. "Was it really just a mistake, Evan? Because it didn't feel like one to me." Her honesty cracked his defenses, but colleagues were arriving, their presence a shield. He turned to his work, ending the conversation before it could unravel him further. The next week was a tightrope. Evan buried himself in code, taking on extra tasks to avoid Claire. In meetings, he kept his eyes on his laptop, speaking only when necessary. Her gaze lingered, but he refused to meet it, determined to rebuild the wall between them. Claire respected his space, but found subtle ways to reach out. A forwarded article on coding frameworks, a post-it note on his desk with great work on the API. Each gesture chipped at his resolve, reminding him of the connection he was trying to erase. His colleagues noticed his intensity, mistaking it for ambition, while he was just running from his own heart. Late one night, alone in the office, Claire appeared at his desk. "Evan, it's 10 p.m. Go home." She closed his laptop, her touch firm but gentle. "You're avoiding me, and it's not sustainable." He met her eyes, a mistake. The memory of her apartment flooded back. "I'm keeping things professional," he said, voice tight. "That's what we need." "Is it?" she asked, sitting across from him. "Because ignoring what's between us isn't working. I'm not your boss right now, Evan. I'm just Claire." Her words stirred something he'd buried. Hope, maybe, or fear. "You're still my boss," he shot back. "And I can't risk this job for whatever this is." Claire leaned closer. "I've noticed you for months, your focus, your quiet strength. That night wasn't just bourbon. It was real." Her confession hit hard, challenging his belief that it was a fluke. But the risk loomed larger than her words, and he left heart pounding, unsure he was escaping or losing something vital. They started small. Coffee runs labeled as team check-ins. Late-night chat about tech trends that veered into personal dreams. Claire was patient, never pushing, and Evan found himself relaxing into her presence. She wasn't just a CEO. She was sharp, funny, haunted by the same pressures he felt. They agreed to keep it secret, protecting their careers from gossip. Evan caught himself smiling at her texts, looking forward to their stolen moments. In meetings, Claire sought his input, her respect for his work boosting his confidence. His colleagues noticed, crediting his skill, not suspecting the late-night talks behind it. One evening, Claire invited him to her condo for dinner. "No pressure," she said, sensing his hesitation. Her home was warm, lived in, not the sterile showpiece he'd expected. She cooked, surprisingly well, and they talked until midnight, the intimacy building without a drop of alcohol. When she kissed him, he kissed back, fear giving way to something stronger. "I'm scared," he admitted, her arms around him. "This could ruin everything." "Some things are worth the risk," she whispered, and for the first time, he believed her. Hiding their relationship was harder than expected. Evan flinched at every lingering glance, hyper-aware of colleagues' eyes. Claire's professionalism was flawless, but he saw her jaw tighten when a co-worker flirted with him. Their stolen touches, fingers brushing over a shared tablet, felt electric but dangerous. His team lead, Marcus, started making comments. "You're Claire's go-to guy now, huh?" he said, half joking, half probing. Evan worked harder, taking on complex projects to prove his worth was his own. The strain of secrecy and scrutiny wore him down, but Claire's quiet support kept him grounded. Then came the breaking point. During a sprint review, Claire praised Evan's algorithm, and Marcus smirked, whispering to another dev, "Guess late nights with the boss pay off." The comment gutted Evan, confirming his fear. People were talking. That night, he pulled away when Claire tried to comfort him. "I need space," he said, hating the hurt in her eyes but drowning in his own panic. He drove home, the weight of their secret crushing him. Claire showed up at his apartment, her usual poise replaced by determination. "We're talking, Evan." She sat on his thrift store couch, refusing to let him shut her out. When he told her about Marcus's comment, her face hardened. "We can't keep hiding," she said. "It's tearing you apart, and I won't let that happen. Let's be open about us, properly, through HR." The idea terrified him, but her resolve steadied him. They met with HR, disclosing their relationship. The process was straightforward. Policies allowed it, provided they kept work separate. Telling their teams was tougher. Marcus's raised eyebrows stung, but most colleagues were indifferent, more focused on deadlines and drama. The relief was immense. Evan could breathe again, holding Claire's hand at lunch without fear. Their relationship grew stronger, free from shadows. He fell for her mind as much as her heart. Her fierce drive, her dry wit, the way she challenged him to be better. Claire's ex, Ryan, a venture capitalist, breezed into town for a tech summit and suggested dinner. "We're friends," Claire assured Evan. "You should meet him." Evan agreed, but doubt gnawed at him. Ryan was polished, worldly, everything Evan wasn't. Over dinner, his easy banter with Claire, inside jokes, shared history, made Evan feel like an outsider. Ryan was kind, but his confidence highlighted Evan's insecurities. Back home, Evan snapped at Claire over a trivial comment, his jealousy spilling out. "Ryan's the past," she said firmly. "You're my future." Her words helped, but the fear lingered, that he'd never measure up to her world. Evan was offered a lead developer role in a new department, a promotion that would end his direct reporting to Claire. It was a dream job, higher pay, more impact, but it meant less time with her. "Take it," Claire urged. "You've earned this." He accepted, diving into the challenge. The work was grueling, his new team skeptical of the young guy from Claire's circle. Evan poured himself into proving them wrong, coding late into the night, his confidence growing with each solved problem. But the distance from Claire hurt. Their moments dwindled to texts and quick calls. He missed her laugh, her steady presence. Her visits to his department felt like lifelines, but they drew curious glances, and Evan worried his success would always be tied to her. A major client project became Evan's chance to shine. Leading a team to build a cutting-edge app, he worked tirelessly, debugging code at 3 a.m., refining features until they were flawless. Claire supported him from afar, bringing late-night takeout, her pride in him palpable. The client demo was a triumph. Evan presented with confidence, his app wowing the room. The client signed on, a massive win for Horizon. His team skepticism turned to respect, and for the first time, Evan felt he'd earned his place without Claire's shadow. That night, alone with Claire, he let himself celebrate. "You were incredible," she said, kissing him fiercely. "I've never been prouder." Her words healed something in him, proving their bond was built on mutual respect, not just attraction. Then, a file changed everything. Reviewing project logs, Evan found emails showing Claire had pushed for his hiring, his assignments, even his promotion. She'd lobbied for him behind the scenes, shaping his career before they'd ever kissed. The discovery shattered him. Every win felt like a lie, his competence questioned. He confronted Claire at her condo, thrusting the emails at her. "How long have you been rigging my career?" Her face fell. "Evan, your work is exceptional. I just made sure people saw it." "You didn't trust me to succeed on my own," he said, voice breaking. "You've taken away my ability to believe in myself." She tried to explain, She'd seen his potential, wanted to help him break through a competitive industry. But at Evan, it felt like manipulation, not support. "You thought I needed fixing," he said, tears burning. "I'll never know if I'm actually good enough." The fight ended with him walking out, leaving her key on the counter. The stain on those sheets had been a warning, and now his world was unraveling again. 6 months later, Evan was at a rival startup, a junior role with no trace of Claire's influence. The step back stung, but it was honest. His new team knew nothing of his past, and every bug he fixed, every feature he built, felt like his own. Claire's email stopped after a month. Industry gossip said Horizon was struggling without the client Evan had helped land. He felt a pang of guilt, but pushed it down. His new life was simpler, cleaner. He'd started seeing Mia, a designer at his new firm. Their connection was steady, untainted by power dynamics or secrets. Sitting at his desk, coding under fluorescent lights, Evan realized the stain that had haunted him had also set him free. He'd lost everything, his job, his love, but gained something better, trust in himself, built on his own terms.